The Revolution Podcast, Episode 6, No Quarter.
Hi, you're listening to Revolution Podcast. This is Maria Howell as Grace on Revolution.
Golden Spiral Media presents The Revolution Podcast. Support for The Revolution Podcast is provided by listeners like you and our affiliation with HostGator. Not only does HostGator host over 8 million domains and provide powerful, reliable hosting, HostGator is environmentally friendly. Learn more about HostGator and their renewable energy credits by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/HostGator today. Welcome back to the Revolution Podcast, everybody. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Jeremy.
How you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Good. I haven't seen you today.
Yeah.
Just Jeremy and I work together. I think we mentioned that in one of our early podcasts, and I called in sick today, and but I'm still doing the podcast. It's one of those, you call in sick to school, but you still want to play with your friends, I guess.
Yeah. Your parents can't tell you no, so.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling better, and so anyway, but good to see you. So we haven't had a chance to talk about Revolution at all today.
Right.
So this will be a straight up, off the cuff. I haven't seen a stitch of your notes. I think you just added some into the show notes. We have a shared document that we use. This will be interesting, I think, tonight, talking about this. Yeah.
Should be fun, though.
Yeah, so we're talking about the third episode of Revolution called No Quarter. This was written by Monica Owusu-Breen, and you Fringe fans should recognize that name. She has written a lot of Fringe episodes. She wrote, The Plateau. She wrote Marionette, Bloodline, One Night in October, and some others that are not coming to my mind off the top of my head. But anyway, she's a great writer, and I'm so excited to have her on the team here for Revolution. We talked about last week about how Charles Beeson was, I think, the director last week.
Yeah.
And boy, these Fringe folks, I didn't realize we were going to have so many Fringe folks coming over to Revolution when we started this podcast. So that's just another layer for me that gets me that much more excited to have the talent behind Fringe coming over to this show now.
Fuzzy tinglies, eh?
I guess so. I mean, and it's no surprise. I mean, these guys kind of stay in their stables. This is kind of a bad robot stable here that we have. So these folks that worked on Lost, or I just mentioned Fringe, or these other shows, Alcatraz or whatever that JJ has done, or that Bad Robot has done. They kind of move around from project to project.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not a surprise, but I am surprised because I didn't know it until I looked this up today.
All right. Well, congratulations.
I wish you were as excited as I was, but anyway, you'll get to know her and her writing. She's written some fantastic Fringe episodes. And this was written by Sanford Bookstaver. Are you familiar with him?
I don't believe I am, no.
Yeah, I wasn't real familiar with him either, and I looked up his work and was more familiar with his work than I realized. But he has done a lot of various shows over. He's a veteran. He's been around for a while.
Okay.
He's about my age, so I hate to call him old. He's not old. I think he's 3 years older than me.
Okay.
But yeah, he's been around forever. Has a lot of work to his credit as well. So really talented folks behind this episode again this week. So anyway, we have some really exciting news to share with you guys this week. I don't want to delay any further. Let's play the music and share some awesome news.
All right.
Jeremy, I'm going to give you the honors.
All right. I like the honors. So. Well, the big news is that there was a record-breaking week, which maybe led into the bigger news that Revolution has been picked up for a full 22-episode season.
Yes, full 22. That means full episode or full season of the Revolution podcast as well. Yeah, because our we get canceled when Revolution gets canceled, so it was like renewal for us as well.
Exactly. Except for we don't get paid the millions they do. So.
We don't get paid, and nor do we have any factor on whether or not it actually got renewed.
Right.
Like we can't take any credit for it.
We could try.
But that just means we have their coattails to ride a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really exciting news. Full season now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna hopefully experience the Firefly death. So.
Oh, well, no, it'll make it past 14 episodes,
Right.
so it at least won't hit the Firefly death. But what we'll have to see now is will it experience the V or the Flash Forward death, where it had 2 seasons and then it was done.
Right.
And only time will tell, but it's off to a great start. I put record-breaking in there again. Record-breaking in terms of the DVR numbers are still high. NBC's having a record-breaking season. It's the Voice and Revolution for them are setting records for them. So it's not like it's necessarily breaking other networks' records, but it's doing extremely well. And for NBC, it's doing extremely, extremely well. So
that's good news.
That's really good news. And congratulations to all of the folks, the crew and the cast, the writers, directors, all of the creative team behind this show. Congratulations for getting a full 22 episodes. Looking forward to seeing them all.
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed. We need to start a drinking game. How many times does Jeremy say "indeed" in an episode?
Only if you are the one that's drinking. So.
I don't know. I might get more entertaining if I actually got a little alcohol in me. Who knows? Yeah. So let's also mention the rest of the episodes that we know. We mentioned a few of these last week and the week before. Next week is episode 4 of Revolution, and that episode is called The Plague Dogs, and that, of course, airs on October the 8th. Episode 5 is called Soul Train, and this is going to air on October the 15th. And we still don't know what episode 6 is called. We believe it will air on October the 22nd. And episode 7 looks to be called The Children's Crusade. And that is supposedly going to air on October the 29th. I say supposedly because I'm used to with Fringe and with most shows, they do have these breaks in there. They're not going to go 22 straight episodes. With Fringe, I kind of know what their pattern is going to be because they're on Fox and World Series and all this other stuff. With NBC, I'm not accustomed to what their pattern is. So there'll be a break at some point, but it may be after these. We may go 7 episodes straight. I just don't know. But the one website I got these from did have these. That's where I got these dates from. Okay. So hopefully they'll stick. So I found a couple of other cool things on some various fan websites this week.
The Revolution interactive map, it gives a kind of a diagram of where the characters have traveled so far, and you can find that on nbc.com/revolution. They should have a link there for you to follow. Yeah,
and this is actually, I mentioned fan sites, but this is actually on the NBC site. It's really cool because in my mind, and I don't know why, but in my mind, I thought the little village there, the little cul-de-sac that they were living in at the beginning of the story was south and a little bit west of Chicago. Like I said, I don't know why, but that's in my mind where it was. But according to the interactive map, it's on the north side of Chicago, north of Chicago.
I kind of felt the same way, but there's not a whole many places to go from Chicago.
Right.
North and east are kind of out, but
they are, unless you're living in the water.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. The Southwest. Maybe we just wanted it to be closer to us here. I don't know.
Maybe so. But it's really cool. You can trace the steps. You can see all the different places that they've been, and it's definitely a pretty cool thing. So I'll put a short link to that. If you go to goldenspiralmedia.com/interactive map, I'll set that up so it'll redirect you over to the NBC site because it is a little bit buried in some of their links and a little bit hard to find, but goldenspiralmedia.com/interactive map will take you over there.
Okay. I'm going to let you take this next one since you're the one that really found it.
Well, I got this from the folks over at revolution-show.com, and I think some of the other fan sites had it also, but this was the first place that I noticed it. And I don't know where they got it from. I couldn't find like a source on any of the sites that had it listed, and maybe they're not able to give their source at this point. I don't care. I think it's awesome. I'm glad that they had it. And this is a U.S. map of a map of the U.S. in the current standing in the 15-year blackout period. Yeah. And we have what are basically 5 republics, or I don't know if you call them states, but you have the Monroe Republic, which stretches from Wisconsin and Illinois, Ohio. So that's kind of the western border. And then stretches over to Indiana and Iowa. No, not Iowa. Help me out with my geography here, but not Kentucky. all the way over to West Virginia
Right.
and the northern part of Virginia, and then all the way up into Maine.
Yep.
So the southern half of Virginia and Kentucky and south, all of that is the Georgia Federation. And then you have Texas, and most of Oklahoma is the area called Texas.
You know, I take exception to that personally.
Do you?
Yeah, we'd kill them.
Well, Jeremy and I live in Oklahoma, and there's a big rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas. So how do you think we would have settled it then?
At the Alamo Bowl.
So it would come down. It would come down between football.
Well,
We would settle it at the Alamo
right.
Bowl. Remember the Alamo
Bowl.
Yeah. I love it.
But I think we'd beat them. So send them packing.
If we played the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sure any football team in Oklahoma could beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Probably
right now.
at this point, after that performance last night, I would agree.
And if the Texas Longhorns were able to pay off the refs like they did in Stillwater earlier this week, then I guess they would beat Oklahoma State. But
Cash means nothing when you can't spend it on anything, right?
that's true. Fun times. And then north of Oklahoma, the northern part of Oklahoma, straight up to the Canadian border, stretching over to, what would that be? Idaho, most of Idaho, down to Colorado, Wyoming. That's the Plains Nation. And then I'm going to skip kind of the middle there. You come over to Washington, Oregon, and California, and that is the California Commonwealth. And even stretches up into Canada or Vancouver, British Columbia, and some of the other British Columbia area. Then we have, what is that? Arizona and New Mexico, Nevada, part of Utah, and part of Idaho are all wasteland. That's where they send all the teenagers, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And so we're going to see the episode 7 there?
Yeah, it's going to be the Teenage Wasteland.
Okay.
Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah.
See, if this were Clint,
I'm not going to sing.
Clint sings when I throw out easy, song tie-ins like that.
Yeah, I'm not a singer.
I don't expect you to. So yeah, and I know probably listening to that, it made no sense. I'm going to have this map listed in the show notes for this episode. Again, this is episode 6 of the Revolution podcast. So head on over to goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution. Look for episode 6 of the Revolution podcast. Click on that, and then in the body where we have all the things that we talked about and stuff like that, you'll see this map. Yeah. It's a great deal. You can also go over to revolution-show.com and find it over there. And thanks to the folks over there for posting that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I do have one thing that I kind of find interesting from it. Most of the map follows either rivers or geographical formations, as well as maybe your border was here, and it may be an artificial border, but it's kind of expanded. But I do notice that the western side of Texas is keeping its border very intact.
It's exactly what it is, yeah.
Kind of fascinating that maybe somebody in the show didn't want to upset Texas.
You don't mess with Texas.
Apparently. But
yeah, the rest of them, yeah, you're right. They look like rivers, or even like the eastern side of the California Commonwealth looks like it's probably based along the edge of the mountain range there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That's a good
just
point.
Wanted to bring that up. So.
Yeah.
Take a look at that, guys.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So let's see, what else do we have in the way of news? We want to remind you guys that we record this podcast live in front of an internet audience every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we invite you to join us over at goldenspiralmedia.com. You can just look for the live show link, or you can just go directly there by going to Revolution. You can go directly there by going to goldenspiralmedia.com/live. We have a chat room. We have cameras on here in the studio. You can watch us and chat with us in the chat room. And then, of course, every Monday night while Revolution is being shown on NBC on the Eastern and Central time zones, we are in the chat room as well, having a nice time with other Revolution fans. You're invited to join us there as well. Again, same location, goldenspiralmedia.com/live. One note, we got a feedback we'll get to in just a minute. I'll go ahead and mention it. If you look at the name of the chat room, that has a little tab that has the title of the chat room on there. Most people, I don't think, notice it, but it does say #The Fringe Podcast. And that is the same chat room. We opened this chat room when the Fringe Podcast was all that we had, and we've kept the same chat room all these years. So it's the same chat room we use for every podcast that we produce. It is called the Fringe Podcast. But if you go over to that web address I gave you, it's the only chat room there. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Jeremy?
Well, make sure you rate us on iTunes if you enjoy us as well. We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't know, does Android rate or
I don't know. I'm an iPhone guy. You're a Windows Phone guy. You're like one of the 3 Windows Phone guys.
I have a Windows phone. I have an Android tablet, but I don't rate anything on there. But I do believe they have a rating system as well. So
yeah, I would imagine they would.
So we appreciate your feedback.
Yep, so. We sure would. All right, well, let's get into that episode recap, and then we'll talk about this episode. The episode begins with Miles, Nora, and Charlie on their way to deliver the sniper rifle to the rebels. Miles tries to talk Nora into keeping the rifle or using it to trade for Danny, but she refuses. In flashback, we see Miles and Monroe on Paris Island Marine Depot 8 weeks after the blackout. Miles has decided to go AWOL and find his brother back in Chicago, and Monroe decides to join him. Back in present time, the group arrives at the rebel base and find a dire situation. The rebels, led by a man named Nicholas, were on a mission to secure guns and were ambushed by the militia. 12 are dead and 1 is missing. Many are badly wounded and dying. Miles and Nora are fearful that the missing person will give up their base location, and they decide to find a new base immediately. As they feared, a militia group led by an officer named Jeremy plays Russian roulette with the captured rebel until he gives up their location. As the rebels finalize their plan to relocate, the militia arrives and attacks the base. The rebels capture Jeremy and hold off the militia through the night. It turns out that Miles and Jeremy know each other, and Jeremy reveals that Miles is commanding general of the Monroe Militia, founding father of the Republic, second only to Sebastian Monroe, and he taught Jeremy everything he knows. Miles surrenders to the militia on the terms that the rest of the rebels are set free. However, Nora and Charlie are able to sneak ahead of the militia and ambush them with explosives and get away with Miles. Miles flashes back to 6 months after the blackout. He rescues a man getting beaten by 2 men. Miles kills the 2 men and helps the man up off the ground. The man turns out to be Jeremy. Aaron and Maggie arrive at Grace's farmhouse and find it abandoned. They locate her computer, but it has now been smashed into pieces. They get what supplies they can, and Aaron tries to make sense of the computer parts. They sit down and discuss their situation. Suddenly, the amulet, which is sitting across the room, lights up and powers on a nearby CD player. Maggie grabs her phone and powers it on to see her kids for the first time in years. However, the amulet quickly flickers off, leaving Aaron and Maggie to wonder what in the world just happened. All right, there's your episode recap. I left out the parts involving Danny. I couldn't figure out a way to work those in because it was so segmented and stuff like that. I knew we were going to talk about those parts. So before you guys send me a hate mail going, oh, you didn't talk about Danny in the recap, because that's how all of our listeners talk.
You can send him hate mail for that too. So.
You could send me hate mail for that. All right, let's get into the episode discussion. All right. Do you have your notebook? I see you brought it. Do you have notes in it this week?
I was typing mostly last night, so I have a few in there I need to transfer over.
Okay.
But, it was so hasty. I didn't want to make it look all trashy.
I see. You have to take time to make sure the notebook is clean and organized.
I do. It's a
wow.
It's a bad habit. So.
That's a little OCD there kicking in, I think.
It's a little.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what was your favorite scene in last night's episode?
Favorite scene? Probably would have to say Danny. With the handcuffs.
Choking the guy?
Yeah, choking the guy, yeah.
That's kind of violent, man.
Well, I say that. The other violent scene with the sniper rifle. And,
yeah?
He sends
Picking
the guy
them off
out.
one by one? Yeah.
And it was a good scene, so we'll talk about that too. But there were a lot of fun scenes in this episode.
My favorite scene was when Mark Pellegrino's character, Jeremy was the only name I detected on him, was getting the snot beat out of him. I just find a lot of enjoyment seeing anybody named Jeremy get the snot beat out of him.
Well, I knew that he would get revenge. Because I had a feeling it was Jeremy when he was getting the crap kicked out of him. So.
But Jeremy always has the last
He always
laugh.
has it, yes.
Good. Very good. All right, well, let's start out our discussion tonight by tackling the episode title once again. We talked about last week's, and we missed the fact that last week, which was Chained Heat, was also the name of a movie. We totally miffed on that one, so thanks for the folks who sent that reminder in. This week we're going to talk about no quarter. It's a military term, which I was not familiar with at all. Were you familiar with this term at all?
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just going to read it straight from Wikipedia here. It says, a victor gives no quarter when the victor shows no clemency or mercy and refuses to spare the life in return for the surrender at discretion of a vanquished opponent. Under the laws of war, it is especially forbidden to declare that no quarter will be given. This was established under Article 23 of the Convention of the Laws and Customs of War on Land of the Hague Conventions of 1907. I don't know what those are. So it says, since a judgment on the law relating to war... Try that again. Since a judgment on the law relating to war crimes and crimes against humanity at the Nuremberg trials in October of 1946, the 1907 Hague Conventions, including the explicit prohibition to declare that no quarter will be given, are considered to be part of the customary laws of war and are binding on all parties in an international armed conflict. You want to put any type of layman's terms spin on that since you're a little bit more familiar with it?
Well, pretty much it's just saying we win, you lose, and we kill you.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
No prisoners, no mercy.
Right.
All right. And that was definitely what we saw last night.
Right.
No prisoners, no mercy.
The whole show.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, you see it with the scene with at the very end where you find out Jeremy is the guy being beat up, and I think it kind of initiates the no quarter. And then when Jeremy again tells Miles that Monroe is not taking prisoners anymore, so it's a clear title reference. I mean, it's picked up throughout the show. Even
when they were playing Russian roulette with the guy, and he finally gave the position, he said, no survivors.
Right.
And so that's definitely the mindset of the militia. And as you mentioned, seems to be established from the beginning with Miles, although he did allow for some sort of, taking a prisoner, and that has now been abolished, it looks like. But
we'll find out his rules with prisoners eventually, I'm sure.
Exactly. All right, I want to ask you this question. This kind of was something that as I was thinking about last week's episode, after we recorded the podcast last week, was we talked about Elizabeth Mitchell's character, Rachel Matheson, being held, captive in what looks to me to be Independence Hall. And I'm like 99% sure I'm right with that. But it just got me to thinking, Independence Hall is we kind of joked about National Treasure last week, and I gave a really terrible Nick Cage impersonation. But that's obviously it's really a monument. It's not a monument like the Lincoln Memorial is, or even the Washington Monument, where it was, crafted to, honor a specific individual. But as far as, important places in American history, it's obviously important. That was the place where independence was declared. And so it got me to thinking about other things, like the Liberty Bell, or even those monuments that I mentioned. There's a lot of monuments there, obviously, in Washington, D.C., not to mention the Capitol and the White House. But then you think about maybe even the Smithsonian and the things that are kept in there, and the other documents that, established the history of the United States. If the United States if you're a loyalist to the United States, you're considered a rebel. Do you think that they've destroyed a lot of these documents, or even a lot of the monuments and memorials that have been established?
I think some of the memorials and the buildings and structures have probably been damaged from war.
Sure.
As far as some of the documents go, I don't know if they would actively pursue them and destroy them, because it seems like a waste of resources, unless he's really paranoid that somebody's going to establish a new constitution. So he destroys if he finds it, or the Declaration that he might find in a museum. So there's a lot of copies out there too. So I mean, he'd have to find the proper one in the back of the museum to destroy it officially. Correct?
You mean the one on display isn't the?
Well, if we learned anything from National Treasure, it's definitely not real.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree with any of that, and I don't know that it'll become a plot point at any point. It was just something that I was wondering about, and really I would think that if you're trying to establish a new law, a new order, a new jurisdiction, a new set of guidelines, then you might even go so far as to take any of those establishing documents and destroy them, just to say, look, these have no merit anymore. And we just talked about there being 5 territories now.
Right.
I don't know what to call them, but might not have been Monroe that destroyed them if they were destroyed.
Yeah.
It's just something that I was thinking about and thought it might be a fun dialogue to have. I don't know.
Well, I don't imagine all 5 of those territories, as we're going to apparently call them. I don't believe they're all necessarily this evil.
I would kind of hope not.
Yeah. But I don't think a lot of people really want to destroy history. I mean, especially the people who are trying to cling onto, not cling on, but cling onto.
We're turning this to a Star Trek podcast now.
No. But I don't think the people who are holding on to that are necessarily holding on to their past. They're going to want to destroy their past.
Mm-hmm.
They loved the United States as it was the United States. When it fell apart, I can understand your argument, and there's definitely ground to it. But anybody who has a hope to rule the nation at one point, I mean, if he's hoping that his militia can overpower the rest of them, maybe he wants those documents, to help establish him as the rightful ruler of the United States.
Right.
Despite the fact that there's just too much ground to really rule without being united. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought that might be a fun way to start off the podcast tonight. So let me ask you, that this kind of really gets us into the next thing. What we saw in flashback was the decision that Miles made to go back to Chicago. And I've got a question about that. But first, before we get into that, I want to ask another question. And as they're walking along the way, I like that it showed 6 months later, because if you're walking from, where is Paris? Is that North Carolina or South Carolina?
Oh, Texas. Paris?
No. They were at Paris military base.
Oh, I'll tell you the truth, I don't know.
It's in one of the two, but either way, it's going to take you a long time to walk to Chicago.
I think they said it was 1,000 miles or something like that.
Yeah, maybe so. So 6 months later, they're still walking. We don't know where they're at along the road, but they're walking along the road. They see a violent, the aftermath of a violent encounter, and then they find another violent encounter. What struck me as odd was Miles, what he said there. Look, there is no law anymore, and there's no jail to take them to. It took the law into his own hands, and here we are 6 months after the blackout, and total lawlessness has already taken place.
Yeah.
How would that happen? Would it be, I'm trying to throw out a couple of scenarios that I thought of. Would it be because I think there'd be so much death at the blackout between starvation, disease, obviously planes crashing and cars crashing and general lawlessness. There would be, but is that really enough to believe that after 6 months there's nothing left already?
Well, I think that in the state that humans tend to be in, I think 6 months is plenty of time to arrive in the position they're in. I think one of the key things that we see is kind of when Miles tells Bass, you're waiting for orders and nobody's going to give them.
They're not going to come.
I think that's the primary thing. We as at least a United States, we've learned to communicate, and most of the world, not all of the world, but we've learned to communicate via the internet. I mean, this podcast is on the internet,
Right.
So all of our communication is near instant. It's, if not instant. And I think that in a society that's built itself around this communication, I think that when that communication fails, I think that, people are going to start crumbling. Whether or not you necessarily have the guy who was beating up Jeremy at the end, I don't necessarily believe that everybody would just be killing people for the heck of it. But I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Last Babylon. If you've not, it's a great book. Okay. It's actually one of my favorites. One of the few in high school that I was forced to read that I thoroughly enjoyed. But it's post-apocalyptic. And it's really nice. It has a lot of kind of insight into what would happen. And one of the things is highwaymen, people who would rob people who are traveling. I think we're going to
That's
see
a good movie. I love that
Highwaymen.
movie, The Highwaymen.
I don't know if I've seen that one. To
It's
tell you the
good.
truth, so.
It's a little weird and stuff, but yeah. Sorry.
Well, I just think that we're gonna see more of that in the future. That's kind of what the guy beating the guy up was, or beating Jeremy up was. But I mean, he says he's looking for food. Well, obviously, he's not looking for food. For some reason, he's just getting a kick, no pun intended, out of kicking Jeremy.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he would really, I guess, devolve into that kind of a person.
Well, humanity has done that. I mean, we've seen it with various riots that have broken out, whether it be over sporting events or court decisions or various other things that have happened, even when Katrina came down to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. When bad things happen, it tends to bring out either the best or the worst in people.
That's true.
And unfortunately, oftentimes the initial response is the worst in people because you want that survival instinct kicks in. I've got to provide for myself and my family. I've got to get what I need. Yeah. So I don't have any issue at all believing that would take place. And the other thing is our military is largely dependent on electronics.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about all vehicles and things like that, and even a lot of the higher tech weaponry, none of that's going to work. Yeah. You know, and it's going to be down to probably the National Guard in the local communities to provide some sort of, law enforcement. And that would probably be pretty easily overtaken if there was a big case of people bringing out their worst.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's true.
I think it could happen. I think it is reasonable to think it could happen. I would like to think that humanity 6 months after a catastrophic event like this would not do that. It would bring out the best in people rather than the worst. And I know in some cases that was the case here. We saw a nice cul-de-sac village where here's a group of people who had decided to make the best of the situation. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it would be a good discussion point to say 6 months later, is that reasonable or not reasonable? And I think it's plausible. I think we both say it's plausible. Yeah. And only unless you're in that situation, you just sure don't know for sure.
Exactly. And I would like to point out, I mean, we have Aaron say that the punchline, to this whole thing is essentially the good guy, the nerd, the weaker person.
Right.
Loses.
Goes back to playground.
Yeah. So when the bully and the mean people essentially take over. So when you have people who are willing to kill to get a hamburger or whatever, then I think that you're going to have a lot of disparity because of what we've seen. And I think that's why we see Elizabeth Mitchell's character last week. She kind of shows that strength where she's willing to say no.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So where do we want to go next here? I guess the next thing, and this is just a minor point for me, we've had a lot of family talk in this short-lived series so far. Yeah. 3 episodes in. The pilot was pretty heavy-handed on it, and I love family. My family is the most important thing to me, so I'm not here saying I wish they'd shut up about family. I just thought it was ironic in a little bit in the sense that Miles was annoyed by the family talk that Charlie was giving him in the pilot, and then it turns out here we have him telling Bass, I got to get back to Chicago. I got to get back to my family. Right. And then Bass says, well, then I'm going with you because you're my family. And it was another instance of family first, families, what matters most.
I think for Miles, I think he's maybe one of those good people who family is important. So he wants to get to his family. When it comes down to so much family talk in the show, I think it's very interesting to see that Bass says that Miles is his family. I think that's really kind of a neat thing. We may not think about a whole lot. We kind of expected it. They're soldiers. They're brothers. Sure, kind of. Exactly. So we expect that. But I think that it's kind of neat to see that because maybe we're going to see how that family fell apart. Right. How, in a sense, Miles divorced himself from Bass. Yeah. So I think that it's going to be very important that they were family. I think we're gonna see a very important message from that.
Yeah, I love your point there. I think that sets up the storylines. This is still a point in the season, and especially this story, I'm assuming Eric Kripke has 5 to 7 seasons in his mind of how this story plays out.
Yes.
But within that, he has where he wants to take the story in season 1, and if they get season 2, where he wants to take it then.
Right.
So there's the 3rd episode in. We are still putting up the pins so that he can knock them down and put them where he will for the rest of the season.
Right.
Now he's already knocking some down and showing us some stuff, but he's still setting up a lot of these story elements so we can kind of peel the layers back of each of these separate onions.
Yeah.
And I think that you're exactly right here. This family element, for 2 reasons, becomes really a nice onion that we're going to get to peel back. Number 1, exactly what you said. What happened here in the family union of Ben and Rachel Matheson to get where we both said last week when she found out that Ben was dead, she was sad but not brokenhearted over it.
Right.
So what happened there? What happened between Miles and Monroe? You called it a divorce if they're family. I get your analogy there. So what happened there?
Right.
So there's that. And then I think the other part of that is that rekindling of family that we saw happening in this episode when the lights go out, literally in this case, but let's say figuratively, when disaster occurs, suddenly the iPod or the Game Boy or whatever it is loses its value, and those people, family, take on the value that they should have had in your life the entire time.
Right. You find out you've been taking them for granted.
Exactly right. And so that exploration of family is also a nice little onion that they're exploring too.
So I agree. And one of the things that I kind of can go ahead maybe point out right now is how much of a family do you think Jeremy is to Miles? I kind of got the impression that he owes him,
That Jeremy owes Miles?
Right.
Well, I'm assuming that Miles took him from being a guy that was getting bullied on the playground to a guy that was able to do whatever he wanted on the playground. He gave him those survival skills.
Right.
Now, whether or not Jeremy feels like there's any debt that he owes to this day for that or not, I think is yet to be seen. Yeah. He did at least show him the respect of saying, all right, we will trade you and let these people live.
Yeah. It kind of makes me wonder if that was maybe him paying him back for saving him, or maybe when Miles escaped, maybe Jeremy helped him, and maybe that was kind of a, hey, we're even now, you know? So it's kind of going to be interesting to see where their relationship goes. Personally, I'm rooting for Jeremy. I kind of have a connection to him, if you didn't assume that already.
Just from the name only, or just something else?
Just the name only. I tend to side with people with that share my name. So, but
very rarely do you see a guy named Daryl in a show unless he's got another brother named Daryl.
Yeah.
And that was worn out so much. I don't know if they don't use that name in TV shows very much anymore. And I'm kind of grateful for that. With my dad being named Larry, there was so much of the Larry, Daryl, and Daryl growing up. So I'm glad you appreciate it when your name is used in a TV show.
Yeah. Well, I'll give him that. So
yeah.
But
The Walking Dead has a Daryl. That's right. I don't know how I forgot that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome too.
Regarding family, though, I did kind of want to bring up Nora.
Okay.
She talks about kind of at the beginning, I fought for our relationship. From the get-go of this episode, they dated. We kind of had a feeling of that last week.
Right.
We knew they had a history.
Right.
So it kind of confirms they did have a history. They were an item. We don't know how long they were an item, at what point they were an item, but we know that they were together. So I think it's safe to assume that maybe he taught her some of what she knows.
Maybe so. I mean, it could have been where it was a relationship where they were in the military together, and he's an attractive man, she's an attractive woman, and things happen, and then you're like, wow, this is awkward now. We should have just remained friends. You know what I mean? Yeah, things happen. You never know. I'm sure we'll get more of that backstory too.
I think if that were the case, though, they wouldn't really be as close as they are now. I think it's obvious that...
I don't know. I've got a couple of ex-girlfriends that I'm still very cordial with.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you,
it's not normal, though.
Would you need their help in help him get a sniper rifle to save your brother-in-law? Or your
I don't think that's
nephew,
really a
rather?
skill set that either myself or any of my
Okay,
ex-girlfriends
that's fair
possess.
enough.
I'm hoping
So-
they don't have sniper rifle
Yeah.
skills. I wasn't always a nice guy.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
no, they're more on Nora later, but I think that it was good to know that, confirmed from the get-go that they were together. So
Yeah. You want to go ahead and talk about the Stu Redman and Franny? That was something that Miles threw out there, and it's kind of cool that Charlie gave him a what type of look. Obviously, I think she caught on instantly that he needed to use an alias, but she didn't see it coming, and so that's where the face came in. But where does that come from? That's not just something that's kind of random.
Right. Well, it's very not random, and it seems to be JJ throwing another, I guess, kind of a bone out to The Stand once again. These are, from what I can find, are some characters within The Stand. They're kind of hunting Randall Flagg in a sense. So it's very interesting that we see that. I knew when he said, "My name's Stu Redman and this is Franny," something told me those are kind of important names. I'm not a big Stephen King reader, but from what we had last week, it was obvious that how normal or fictional, I guess they actually sounded, not normal, but they sounded like made up names, not something he would just come up with off the top of his head. So more like an author would write. So I looked them up real quick. If you Google it, it's all over who exactly they are. So I thought that was very interesting. So
I do too. I love the shout out. To me, that ties in. All we got was Randall last week, but we all speculated that was from the Stephen King. And so in my mind, this further solidifies. And so I haven't read Stephen King in probably 20 years. I haven't kept up with this stuff since I was in junior high, maybe high school. Was the last time I read a Stephen King book, and so I'm very, very foggy on it. But we always had Stephen King books in the house. We grew up, all of us kind of grew up reading them. So it kind of makes me want to go back and pick those back up and kind of refresh myself with those stories, because like I said, I'm very, very foggy. It's been so long since I've read through any of his stuff. But we talked about the Star Wars tie-ins from the pilot. Eric Kripke said that he wants this to kind of be a Star Wars, and we've also heard some things about Lord of the Rings. This, as far as the walking aspect, that's what they were always doing in Lord of the Rings. It's exposition while walking, right? And so this is going to be a lot of the same. We saw that again this episode. But yeah, it's cool to see Stephen King tie-ins as well. Yeah. Another thing, this is kind of another random thing, but Miles' makeup on those flashback scenes, I thought they did a fantastic job of making Billy Burke look 15, 20 years younger.
I agree. I want to say props to makeup and costume, because he looked like a kid.
Yeah.
Almost too young, but he looked, 23?
He looked really young. Yeah. They did a great job. And as far as David Lyons goes, who plays Bass, we haven't got as many scenes with him, nearly as much screen time with him as we have Billy. And of course, Billy's been on American television for years, so we know his face better than we do David Lyons. I didn't go back and put any side-by-side comparisons to know if they did as good of a job on him. They may not have felt like they needed to, because like I just said, we're not as familiar with him.
Right.
But with Billy, they did a great job.
Right.
It was impressive.
It was. It kind of makes me want to see Mark Harmon from NCIS all kitted out, because they're kind of close-ish to the same age.
I don't know.
How old is Billy Burke?
I don't know. I don't know how old Mark Harmon is.
I think he's a little bit older. But
I would think Mark Harmon's older, but I don't know.
Anywho.
Yeah. Sidebar.
Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. All right. What else is on your list here?
Well, I have a bit. I mean, we can start off with the Russian roulette. I mean, that's kind of where the next thing picked up. We had who we find out is Jeremy, toying with this missing in action militiaman.
Played by Mark Pellegrino, by the way. And all of our Lost fans, not all of our Lost, all Lost fans will know Mark Pellegrino as Jacob. Just a wonderful actor in that role. And he's done some other things too, but I was so excited to see him on screen this week.
It was pretty cool. So
yeah, he did a great job, I thought.
Yeah.
Creepy, strong, Do
you think he's Randall?
No, I don't think so.
Just
No,
checking.
I don't think so.
Okay. Now, I think
Funny sidebar, though.
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it was after the pilot,
okay.
I was having a conversation with a coworker, Jason, a mutual friend of ours, and he... no, because we saw Randall's arm.
Right.
And so that's all. So I guess it was after, I don't know when it was, but anyway, he predicted, based on the what we saw, the body structure of Randall, who it could be.
Okay.
And he said it will probably be someone in the Bad Robot stable.
Yeah.
And he predicted Mark Pellegrino.
Okay.
And so when Mark Pellegrino was in this episode this week, I said, "You cheated. You knew he was going to be in an episode, and you just threw out his name hoping you'd be right." And he says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Mark Pellegrino is going to be in this week's." I found out like on Friday or something like that. And he said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Don't act like you don't know." He says, "No," and he didn't. He had no idea that Mark Pellegrino was actually going to be in the episode, but he had him pegged wrong. He said he thought it would be Randall, but he was
wrong character, right show.
Yeah, so he was pretty close. He still felt like
he's kind of a bad guy, so
yeah,
it works.
Yeah, but anyway, back to what you were saying.
Well, just the Russian roulette scene. It kind of bugged me how weak the rebel was. Personally, he just kind of. The guy's going to kill you. He's going to kill you.
You know he's going to kill you.
Let him kill you.
Yeah.
Don't sell out your friends.
Don't sell out your friends. I felt the exact same way. I mean, I guess in that situation you hope that he won't kill you, but come on.
Yeah.
You know the way the militia treats rebels.
Yeah.
No survivors.
Exactly.
So I was a little disappointed. I mean, they needed to do it to get the plot moving forward. They had to find out where they were located.
Maybe he could have had a map or a compass with coordinates. I don't know, but something.
But it also established the cold-bloodedness of Jeremy, and that was good to know too. It helped us identify his methodology. And
he's pretty ruthless, isn't he?
Yeah, ruthless. Yeah. So I definitely felt like there was some value in that scene, but I don't think the rebel would have given up the location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was a great scene. It was so good. Just rolling that chamber around, click.
He was pretty smooth with it, so pretty good acting there.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, I've got some other things I want to talk about, Miles and stuff, so I want to let you kind of get all your stuff out that doesn't pertain to that before we swing back and make this thing too disjointed, because I should have talked about these things already, and I missed it.
Okay.
I guess while we are on talking about that Russian roulette scene, though, we could talk about the bullets, because he talked in that scene about bullets being like diamonds. Now, it's a metaphor. Obviously, diamonds are rare,
right?
Or at least De Beers would have us believe they are.
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing. But, and so that's the point. I thought it was interesting because in the intro of the show, we see the militia taking crate after crate after crate after crate of weapons.
Right.
But when you think about these guys who are out there, away from the main militia headquarters, they're going to be limited to whatever they can scavenge after a certain point.
Yep.
And I think that's the point where they're at. They've been on the road for a long time.
Yeah.
And they probably don't have a lot of ammo left.
And you were concerned last week if they'd ever talk about it. So it was good that they kind of gave us that answer, kind of showed us, it is rare. We don't just have stockpiles of it. We can't just shoot anything that moves. So.
Yeah. And he basically said, look, we can make all the stuff we want.
Yeah.
As far as getting a copper-jacketed, smokeless bullet,
right,
a modern bullet, those are hard to find, at least out in the field where they are at. I still think that the militia has them stockpiled. They are out there. The militia does have what they need.
Yeah.
But once these guys get out there on the road for an extended period of time, it becomes harder even for them to have access to that. We'll see if that's true or not, but that's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of interesting that they did finally answer that. So,
and I'll go back and add to that and say that, people are asking a lot of questions of this show, from day one. Oh, it's unbelievable that the power would go out. This is so ridiculous. I'm done. Or, what do you mean they can't make bullets? It's so ridiculous. There's no, thing to tie in a blackout to not being able to make a bullet. And this is the third episode.
Yeah.
They are still telling us the reality and the rules of what this world is now.
Yep.
So don't judge it too fast. They can't tell you everything in the first episode unless they just it's just total exposition the entire episode, and no one would like that either. So stick with it. Allow them to set the groundwork for this show.
Or it'd be as short as a movie if you want it that quick.
Exactly. So they're going to get those things answered. They're answering stuff every single week.
I'm definitely happy with that pace for sure. So.
I'm happy with the pace too. Yeah. All right. What's next for you? Well,
go ahead. No, let's go to Miles and
let's talk about Miles. Okay. I meant to talk about this when we were talking about the family, and I had it in the wrong spot, so I missed my note here. But Miles was really eager to get back to his brother, and I kind of got the impression that he and his brother weren't necessarily the best of friends. They weren't like enemies or anything like that, but they weren't, maybe they were, because, Ben called him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But does Miles know something? What did he know? Why was he so eager to get back to his brother? Was it just so he could be back with his family, or was there more to it than that? Yeah. I'm not sure. I could see it both ways, where he just wanted to get back to family, but I could also see it where he knew something that maybe Ben had shared with him, and he needed to get back to that. Yeah.
Well, I think that the call at the beginning, it kind of sounded like they had talked a lot, He kind of just jumped in, hey, the power's going to go out. Miles didn't quite understand what was going on, but the way Ben kind of conversed with him there, to me, kind of felt like, he didn't have to say necessarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but hey, this is Ben.
Right.
And then get into the problem. He just kind of told him, here's the problem. So I kind of felt that he did know who it was. I think maybe he said it's my brother before he answered the phone too. So
I think he did.
If he did that, he obviously had his either phone number memorized or it stored in the book.
Right.
Or
the phone.
The phone. The address book is what I'm thinking. But
yeah.
See, electricity just rules our life. So.
It does.
What's a book?
What's a phone book?
Yeah.
What?
So I thought the relationship was a little bit closer than maybe you do.
Okay.
But
I think you're probably right. I think maybe I discounted it too much, but I'm still not sure what he knew. Do you think that Miles, do you think that Matt, I'm going to get the name right in a minute. There's too many M's in this stinking show.
Yeah.
Do you think that Monroe knew that Miles knew something and he tagged along for that purpose, or was it, I got nothing else to do and no one else to go with, so I'm going to go, you are my family, so I'm going to go with you?
I think it's mixed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Monroe maybe wanted to use Miles a bit for some of the information Ben would have had, but I don't think that Monroe really pursued that so much. To me, it's just kind of it's almost overused mechanism, if that's the case. Just use the poor witless guy. And I think Miles is a little bit smarter than that. So.
I definitely think he is. Do you think that Miles and Ben ever met back up, or along their way did Miles' mission change from meeting back up with Ben to trying to save the world, which turned into the militia?
Okay, well, I think that Miles did meet up with Ben. That might be why you see Rachel in Miles, or excuse me,
I've got you
company.
doing it now. Monroe's custody, yeah.
Right. So I think because of that, the fact that she's with Monroe kind of tells me that they did meet up.
Yeah.
She talks about the old days, which we kind of speculated last week could be before the blackout or after the blackout. I kind of think that it was after the blackout.
Okay.
There was alcohol still around. Miles needed to release, kind of like you mentioned with Nora. Maybe she was just kind of a fling, So a one night stand or what have you. So I think that they got together and all four of them know each other. Which
I agree with that.
I really think Charlie needs to find out and just go, oh, well, my family knew them. They created the Monroe Republic. I should get over that now.
Yeah. And Yogavon in the chat room is saying that she believes that Miles and Ben met up again.
Yeah.
So I think so too. So it looks like Miles and, I thought it was quite interesting that Monroe in the flashbacks seems to be the much less aggressive one of the two.
Yeah.
Miles is much more aggressive.
Yeah.
It also seems like he started the militia with the intention of it being some sort of law-keeping, peacekeeping,
Right.
something, because there was nothing. And it got out of hand. And I'm going to speculate that he designed it to be ruthless because there was lawlessness and people were getting killed and there was nothing to protect them.
Yeah.
And so you had to be ruthless in order to take back control.
Yeah.
But it turned into something that he didn't envision it being. And it could be where he was sucking in that power and he was becoming, and he was enjoying that for a time.
Power corrupts.
Yes. But at some point, in my mind, he realized just how corrupt he had been and walked away.
Yeah.
And then Monroe took that, and now he's, although he shared with Rachel last week that he's having some second thoughts.
Yeah.
Although, he said, Jeremy said that Miles was second only to Monroe.
And I was going to bring that up if you didn't.
So there would have had to have been a power transfer even before Miles left.
Yeah, at what point did Sebastian overrule Miles?
Yeah.
So because that's going to happen.
That was not the relationship we saw in the flashback.
So something's got to change in their relationship. So.
Or Monroe, even from that point in the flashback, is laying low.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So kind of letting everything else work. So
he's got an agenda of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're definitely going to address it. They started peeling back that layer, obviously, with this episode, with the big reveal that Miles was a founding member of the militia and all that stuff. So that's definitely now they've got that onion on the table that didn't exist last week. And
as far as I'm concerned, it did exist last week, though. So.
Well, it's no surprise.
Right.
Yeah. Now, are you talking about the preview for this episode that they showed last week?
I don't watch previews.
Okay.
So.
They revealed that in the preview.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I'm like, come on. That's like the biggest plot point.
Yeah.
Biggest twist of this episode, and they revealed it in the preview for after last week's episode. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I avoid those when they come on. I hit the rewind button and start the show over, do my notes, and then hit stop at the end of the show. I don't want to see the spoilers. So.
Okay. Good for you.
I avoid that.
I won't mention anything about
this week.
Although I think we might have a caller that mentions something about it.
Okay.
We'll see. All right. I think that's what I had on the Ben thing. Where are we at here in our notes? I haven't really been paying attention.
Well, Miles training the militia, and now that they're unstoppable. What do you think that means?
About the militia being unstoppable?
Yeah.
I thought that was extremely odd because it's hard for me to believe that a person, I don't care who you are, would be capable of training a force of people that could be unstoppable for this large geographical region that from Maine all the way down to what would that be? Chicago, Illinois. I'm trying to think of what the state is south of Illinois. I'm drawing a blank. Is that Iowa? But anyway, that's a large geographical location. So is Miles so awesome that he could train a fleet of soldiers to maintain power over that entire area? He may be awesome himself, but he can't clone all these people to think exactly and react exactly like he would in any given situation. So I thought that was actually a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I think it was more or less he's just very confident in how strong he trained his troops to be. He's very proud of them. He's very sure in their abilities. So I didn't think that necessarily meant that he thought they were actually unstoppable. I thought more or less it was just him saying, hey, they're strong. I think he's confident. That's how it came up.
I don't disagree with that, but just the emphasis he put on it to me said exactly what he said. That those words said they are the way they are because he trained them and they can't be stopped because of that. And you flip that back and you say, well, that explains why Miles is so awesome, why he can take out 20 men at a time or whatever.
Yeah.
But I still have a hard time thinking that one guy could train, and even after he's left the ranks, they would be able to maintain this level of training and execution excellence that he established from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, if he trained Jeremy to train them, then I'm sure anybody named Jeremy's going to be capable.
I guess, but I think of like multiplicity with Michael Keaton. Every copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and you got guys out there with sporks trying to fight.
Okay.
I don't know why I said sporks. It seems funny to me, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So let's see. What else do you have on the agenda here?
Okay. Well, are we ready to talk about the power amulet at the scene there at the very end of the episode?
I didn't want to bring that up just yet. I mean, there was a lot between it. Let's talk about Danny.
Okay, let's talk about Danny. That
Neville's
would be great.
Camp.
Yeah.
So, that's something that I'd kind of like to bring up. So, give me your thoughts first.
Okay. I think that they are clearly trying to make us think that Danny is going to join the militia. Therefore, I clearly cannot side with the opinion that Danny is going to join the militia.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull a Princess Bride analogy here,
Yeah. And I can go back to the word I used last week.
Inconceivable, right. So I think, like I said, I think they are.
Okay.
And honestly, I could totally see that happening, but I think that's the road everybody's going to go down.
Yeah. So what if we poison both glasses and say he's going to go down them and maybe subterfuge them?
I would love to see that. I would love to see that where he infiltrates their ranks, becomes one of them, quote unquote, only so he can help take them down from the inside.
I think that would be
I would rather see that than him join their ranks and then have a change of heart.
Yeah.
And then take them out from the inside.
Right.
I would rather that be his agenda from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the way that this guy is treating him with the water and what he said about his dad, and then you want to join the ranks of that?
Right.
No, you don't want to. You don't want to become that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to destroy that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got that look in his eye. Like Anakin and Tom is over there like Palpatine. You know what I mean? That's our Star Wars reference for the week. But I can't believe that that Anakin is going to become Vader. I have to believe that if he does, it will only be because he's going to take them out from the inside out, and that will be his agenda from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going to fall necessarily, but I think that he's
there is still some
possibly going to. He's possibly going to infiltrate them. I'm not totally sure about that, but it definitely came across that. I just saw Palpatine sitting there kind of good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, sitting on his horse going,
exactly.
Yes, you're doing well.
Turn to the dark side.
Padawan. Yeah. So I'm hoping either he doesn't turn at all,
mm-hmm.
they avoid that plot line, because it seems like telegraph. We're going down this lane, everybody. Here's where the truck's going. Danny's going into the militia.
Mm-hmm.
And since that is so being telegraphed right now, I'm hoping they don't. Or if they do, it's, like we said, not the redemption line. It's the infiltration storyline.
Well, one thing that I did notice, if I can get this.
Your mouse giving you fits there?
Yes, it is. One of the things in the scene when the kid spills the water, I say kid, I don't know if we got his name. We got his friend's name, but a jerk, or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He spills the water. The book that Tom is reading, did you catch that?
Oh, yeah. Iacocca.
Yeah.
Lee Iacocca, who was over at Ford, made the Mustang, also made the Pinto.
Yeah.
and didn't set well with, he and Henry Ford, I think the third, had a bad relationship, and he got booted, went over to Chrysler, saved Chrysler, did the Dodge minivan and all that stuff that brought Chrysler out of bankruptcy. I have a feeling, though, that the book might have been more of a nod to Iacocca's management style, and I don't know much about that. I don't know if you did any research to figure any of that out, but that's kind of what I got from it, is that he might be... So, like, when Iacocca took over Chrysler, did he go in and chop a bunch of heads, or did he... Like, one thing I saw was that he made the Pinto unsafe because, money was more important than safety. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if he ever said that or if that was his approach. But if so, then I could see, that
soldiers are expendable.
Yes, exactly. And we certainly saw that with Jeremy.
He's not a good CEO. I have to say that right now.
Yeah.
If you're going to send one at a time against a sniper rifle, all of you go.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, he can't.
So-
He can only take one at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got a bolt action sniper rifle. As powerful as it is, it's not going to just demolish your entire crew. So
Yeah.
kind of frustrated me there.
That's a great point. Yeah. I didn't even thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Made for a good scene. There's some
Yeah.
funny parts. One of my favorite parts of the episode was
Right.
when they're behind the trash can. He's like, send somebody out. And he's like, no. He's like, send somebody out. It's like, yes, sir. Stands up. Bang.
Yes.
And then I had it written down, but I can't remember exactly what he said. But it amounts to great.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. So I thought that was a pretty funny scene. So
Yeah.
what did you think about, I'm going to label it Hoth,
Hoth?
the rebel base?
Okay.
Or Hannigan's, if you want to name the restaurant.
Yeah, no, let's stick with Hoth. I like that better.
Okay.
I thought they spent too much time there. I thought that the first half of this episode drug.
Okay.
The back half I thought was excellent. I would have liked to have seen more with Aaron and Maggie. We only got like 2 scenes with them.
Yeah, it was.
We got 3 small scenes with Danny.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And all of those scenes, the B and C storyline for this episode,
Yeah.
they paid big dividends for me. The A storyline with Miles and Charlie and Nora, I don't know. Even though there was action going on, like you said, with the sniper rifle and the attack and digging out the tunnel and all that stuff, it still was just, it needed to move a little bit.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I didn't like it. It was seemed to be an okay location. There was a basement where they could hide, and maybe there's just not a whole lot of places to get cover. I don't know. I'm guessing you're asking that question because you've got a specific opinion that you're trying to get to, and I don't think I don't know where you're going with that.
Not a whole lot of opinion. I did think it was kind of funny. The caves collapsing, and you see those kind of collapsing in the scene at Hoth in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But
You said it happened in Lost, too.
Really?
Yep. Charlie
Right.
rescues Jack from the cave.
There you go. My enter button is not working, so I cannot.
Oh, you should get a Mac.
Well, the enter button itself is working, but I had it on the wrong search bar, so that explains it. It was user error.
User error.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. There's nothing to do there, I guess, if it's a user error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did talk about the M40A. Most people might know it as the M40A1, I believe. But it was introduced, according to Wikipedia, in 1966. It's very common. It's been used for years.
Okay.
I think they have the A3 came out in the 2000s, and the A5 came out in 2009. So he's probably actually using the A5. But it's built from a Remington 700 bolt-action rifle. And if you've seen Shooter, I don't know if you've seen it, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, maybe.
It's kind of one of the guns he gets for him and his buddy. I believe he gets it for himself, but when they're doing do the good guy stuff, they go shop and get those the Remington 700. While among hunters may not be the most popular rifle, among, I guess, nerds and movie watchers, I know a few people who went out and bought one because of that movie. Essentially, it's the base for bigger rifles. So, according to, let's see if I can get the exact specs. It's a long rifle. It's got a. Okay, I'm gonna throw this in there. It's M40A1 Heart. In case you want a Heart reference, they don't play music; they just shoot bullets. This one. So, sorry, I'm delaying. I'm trying to find. It's a 7.62 NATO round, so it is a standard issue NATO round. So I was double checking that before I said anything. That's what the cartridge is. So it's going to be a common round, probably for military. You're not going to see. I don't think it'd go through the door that he shoots through, but it might. Somebody who's more of a gun guy can correct me on that if they want. But you see him shoot through the door.
Right.
I don't know how thick that door was, and to be fair, it's been 15 years, so it's probably lost a lot of its padding and anything that was there. But it's a pretty good sized round, so it's a decent round. So they may have had it a little louder than it really sounds, but it is a rifle and it is loud. So anywho, that's the M40A. Just kind of a sidebar again. I like sidebars. I like the Shawshank out.
Yeah, that was
That
funny.
was fun. Kind of was hoping it would work, but they didn't have to go through a sewer, so that was good.
If they had a sewer pipe to run through, that would have done it.
Yeah. Did you catch Bloomington Base, where it looks like Nick and when he's saying we need to leave before they all get shot up, he tells them 2 months, meet Bloomington Base. So kind of interested to see if they still meet there.
Right.
See if we see any more of that. What'd you think about how the militia fought there with their volleys?
It was straight out of the Revolutionary War fighting style. And maybe that was intentional it is called revolution, right? And so what we're seeing here is, a revolution occurring to take back America is really what I'm basing that title on. So to see that fighting style come back, it was kind of cool, but there's a reason that we did away with that fighting style where you stick a man up, he gets shot, next man up, you know what I mean? So it was kind of cool. It went along with the musket style of shooting, or the weapons, but you don't have to fight that way even if you have a weapon of that era.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought that. I agree. I mean, I can't say anything other than that. It was kind of neat to see. It was kind of fun, but I didn't really think that, that's necessary.
Right.
One of the things that we've learned as is a military society, within our strategies and our tactics, guerrilla warfare is a whole lot more effective than standing and firing. Granted, when you're shooting at a bunch of people who are unarmed and you have one round every 30 seconds, depending on how fast you reload that musket, I think that it's very intimidating to the people you're shooting at. But I think for a bunch of people who have clubs, one volley and then they're going to charge you.
Exactly. And Nora's able to make explosives. Can nobody else on the planet make explosives except for Nora? Throw a Molotov cocktail in there, or which is not explosive. It's just a flame spreader, but weapon. But
causes fear, which is pretty key here.
And you get them running. If you catch that interior on fire, they all start running out. Now you can pick them off.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Why didn't they burn down the base?
Right.
I think, if you're out to kill them, kill them. But I understand it's the structure of the show. You've got to have good guys win every once in a while, even if it's a grievous loss.
Yeah.
They still come out relatively ahead, so.
Yeah, and Ryan from Iowa says, especially since bullets are so rare. So if their bullets are so rare, they're really going to just stand out there and loft bullets into the structure.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the musket bullets are going to be rare. If you learned anything from The Patriot, did you watch The Patriot?
I have seen The Patriot.
He melts his child's little...
Yeah, you can make those,
muskets, it doesn't need
they're not
to
jacketed
be,
to begin with, right? And you're right. But still.
Yeah, I mean, technically you could put shrapnel in it and it'll shoot it out.
Exactly right.
That's all you really need.
Yeah.
Just enough to kill the guy you're shooting at.
Yep.
So, inside we find out about Nora.
The baby that she lost.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
I don't know that I have a whole lot to say on that. It was a storyline that helps us understand what her motivation is, gives her character a little bit more depth. Like I said, she now is fighting to get America back so she could have a place to raise a child.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it.
No.
Do you?
I just thought it was good to see her motives.
No.
I'd kind of like to see the fight scene where Frank was his name, where she protects Frank, who was protecting her. So
yeah.
Other than that, do you think it was Frank's kid or do you think it was Miles?
Oh, I got the impression it was Frank's.
Okay. I didn't know how long they were dating before that event. So
yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Just checking. So what's next on the agenda?
The amulet is what's next on my agenda. Do you have anything before that?
No, I'll let you take over.
Well, this was another great scene. Big big twist at the end. But what I was really surprised by was that I thought one of them was going to just accidentally hit the button.
Me too.
But they're sitting there talking, and he's giving this exposition about being bullied in the schoolyard, and then it just powers on randomly. How? I've got a couple of ideas, but I'm going to ask you first. How did that thing just randomly come on? And it only stayed on for 30 seconds or so.
My idea is Randall.
Okay.
Was close.
Okay.
And they probably should have just left.
That is a thought that I had as well. The other thought that I had was, if not Randall, somebody with the power, with one of them nearby, came into proximity and it powered on. The other thought I had was that maybe there's something that is on some sort of timer, and it triggered on and then triggered off. And so maybe there's another amulet type of power device within the proximity, and it was just, it was like I said, it was on a timer. Maybe it comes on every day to receive a package of content, like an internet package of content, and it powered on to retrieve that and then powered back off.
Okay. That sounds a little dangerous to me when you're trying to conceal it.
Yes, it does.
So.
But it was just, I'm trying to think
of it's a good theory, but
explanations here.
It's plausible.
Yeah.
So
really cool scene though with the music, you know. Man, hearing music for the first time in 15 years, that would be, when we had Maria on last week, she said music would be the thing that she would miss the most. And I have a feeling it probably would be the thing that I would miss the most too. I mean, I have my guitar over here. I don't know if my guitar strings would last 15 years or if I could find a way to make guitar strings. But as far as those groups that I like, that full band style of music that you get, I would miss that a bunch. I love music, so I thought that was really cool. And then obviously she's going to pull out her phone and look at those kids.
So, did you see what the phone said?
Had an Apple logo and then the slide to log on screen. I thought.
Right. Well, I had that. I thought it was kind of funny that.
Hey, there's a microphone there.
Yeah, thanks. I thought it was kind of funny that it held its charge over 15 years.
Yeah.
But we can suspend that disbelief.
I'll suspend that, or say that maybe we don't know what the amulets do. Do they just simply create a barrier, and so the interference is blocked, or do they actually power things?
Right.
And if they power things, then there's your explanation for the battery coming on. We don't know the rule yet on that.
That's correct. I did see. Did take a picture of it real quick.
Oh, you did.
It's 6:23.
Okay.
Monday. What date is that?
September 17th.
All right. Was that 3 weeks ago on premiere night, possibly?
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. It from what it appears, it's September 17th. It's series premiere.
Mm-hmm.
So
11% battery life, searching for a signal.
Yeah, it's searching. I didn't know if that was the Bluetooth up in the top right. That's the circle.
I think so.
So apparently somebody has Bluetooth that's enabled.
Yeah.
But that's probably just I don't know, an error or something.
Yeah, so. I don't know.
But anywho, I thought that was an interesting kind of a little picture there.
Now, you remember last week when you and I speculated that Maggie was going to die?
Yeah.
Charlie was going to be the death of her.
Yeah.
Well, as far as what we know about her character, it's now been resolved.
Yeah, she's complete.
I hope that we're wrong. We talked after the pilot that she was one of our top 4 intriguing characters. Right. So I hope we're wrong. But man, when they resolved her story like that, it was like, dang it.
Yeah.
She's going to die soon. And the other thing, we got an email in, I think it was this week, and I don't know if it's one that we're going to read or not, but they said, why don't you have Annalise Phillips on your website? We have the cast on there.
Yeah.
We don't have her on our website. We got those from NBC.
I noticed that.
And I haven't looked since I created that page, but at the time, she was not on the NBC page.
Yeah.
So that could be a bad sign for her too.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was flipping through that the other day looking for character profiles, and I was like, we're missing one at least. But so yeah, not having Maggie will be interesting. We'll kind of miss the British accent personally. So.
Yeah, she'll be like Boone. Someone's got to be the first to die. It was Boone on Lost, and I could be wrong. I don't know anything. I don't know any spoiler, but it's looking more and more like she's going to be the first to die.
Well, Ben was the first to die.
Well, we still see him in flashbacks, so I don't,
Okay.
you know.
You don't think we'll see Maggie at all as a guest, or
Maybe.
okay?
Maybe from time to time. They'd have to flash back to the cul-de-sac.
I think there's going to be a lot that happens.
Well,
in
they
the cul-de-sac.
could. I don't know.
I mean, she was a doctor.
And she's not dead yet. We're writing her funeral. You know,
That's
we're
true.
doing her eulogy. She's not even dead yet.
I'll get her obituary on the show notes as well. So.
That's right. That's right. All right. Any other comments on that scene, or anything else that we haven't covered yet?
No, I thought that it was interesting watching Aaron kind of go through the computer and go, I know these parts. It kind of reminds me when I find a broken computer.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I can fix this. When there's no power, though, it kind of makes it hard. So,
right.
I liked his comment about Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So
we've had 3 episodes now. Did you like this one? Is this your favorite episode so far, or how does it kind of fall with the 3 that we've had?
I'll tell you the truth, I was actually a little slightly disappointed with it.
Okay, so your least favorite so far?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I think I was a little frustrated. I've been kind of defending Charlie. I think I was just really frustrated with some of her comments throughout the episode.
Are you serious? I thought she was better this episode.
Yeah.
Because when Miles told her, stay here, and I mean it, you know, she did.
No, she didn't.
Well, yes, she did.
She went upstairs and shot a guy with a crossbow. When they're in that fight,
okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw a quick picture of her and then the crossbow bolt go.
Well, maybe she did, but she didn't like get all whiny and say, why were you going?
No, she just disobeyed him.
Yeah, so that was the part that...
Who needs to whine when he can't spank you, right?
Right.
Or ground you, whatever.
I thought she was a lot better in this episode.
Okay.
Not perfect, but...
No. It just started grating on me this episode, just with the whole... I don't know. She kind of felt whiny this week. I think the whole hang up, honestly, is the end of the episode when she lights the arrow and shoots it perfectly over 50 yards with this bag on a bridge that has some form of explosive in it.
Yeah.
I think that bugged me. And so that just kind of made me go, you know, it's like, that wouldn't happen.
Come on, man. It's TV. The hero always makes it in the first shot. Never gets hit by, oncoming fire.
I understand that, but I don't know. It just, she aimed for like half a second and fired.
I don't disagree that it's far-fetched and unlikely that she would have hit it first shot like that.
So I think that scene is just spoiling the whole episode for me on her.
Okay. All right.
So
anything else?
No, but Rev 3 has a question about counting bottles of wine for the whiny factor.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I just realized that I don't have our quote of the week winner from last week in the lined up in here for in queue to play this week. So I'm going to drag it in over here real quick.
Okay.
And let's see. So I'll do that while we play the intro music for quote of the week. New music this week for quote of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I didn't like the one that was there as a placeholder, so I finally did some digging and came up with something new. All right, so last week's winner for quote of the week was "Shut up and stay here," and it was not even close. Again, it was a lot. It was closer than the week before, but it was still a runaway. But here it is.
Danny's riding with guys like that, and what are we doing here?
Told you, need to talk to somebody.
Miles, wait. My little brother's out there somewhere. He hasn't been more than 5 miles from home since he was a kid, and it's my job to look out for him.
If you want to see him again, we're going to have to go up against Monroe himself and a couple thousand of his men. I can't do that alone. I need help, and my help is here. Be right back.
Where are you going?
This little place called Shut Up and Stay Here.
Still a good line.
I think that speaks, since it's the winner, it speaks to how much people were really
wanting to say the same thing.
Yeah. No, that actually kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about. Just the whole, when she's inside the Hoth, when they're talking, she just, when they find out who Miles is, it's, what do you mean it shocked you? You know, it's like, I don't know. I guess her dad never told her who her brother or her uncle was.
Yeah, I could see why it wouldn't shock her. Her dad didn't tell her anything.
That's fair enough, so... Anywho, that was a thought.
Okay. All right. Well, the first quote for this week is, "Are we clear?"
There's 50 men up there. You cannot stop them.
You know, that's what my dad used to say. Every time the soldiers would come into our town and they would take our crops and our women. I bet he said it the night they came for him.
And he was right. He was trying to protect you.
He was being a coward.
Don't ever disrespect your dad. Are we clear?
I like that scene. You know, because we talked in the beginning of this podcast about what that relationship might have been between Miles and Ben.
Yeah.
And it still might have been tumultuous back in the day.
Mm.
But when he's dead, when that person is dead and you have things you didn't say or things you did say,
Yeah.
you know.
Maybe he regrets. So,
yeah. And you appreciate that person or have a different perspective on them or whatever. Or maybe they had a strong relationship like you said they had. We don't know.
I think at some point you're going to see Miles call Ben a coward.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll probably be some of his last words to his brother.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. I wouldn't doubt it at all.
And so that's probably why he's so angry about this.
Yep. I like that. All right. The next quote is, "This is Miles Matheson."
You know this guy?
Oh, you really don't know, do you?
How do you know him?
Well, they're gonna find out sooner or later. Go ahead. Tell them. This is Miles Matheson, commanding general of the Monroe militia. Damn founding father of the Republic, second only to Sebastian Monroe himself. You taught me everything I know.
It's a very fun quote.
It is good. This is going to be tough this week. I had to eliminate like 4.
Really?
I do 4 every week.
Yeah.
Rarely will I do 5. I just can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had like 8 or 9 quotes this week that I had to narrow it down to 4. The next one is, "How is anything more important?"
If I didn't know any better, and I am not sure that I do, I would say that Grace Beaumont built herself a computer.
That's
Insane. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Totally. Who would build a computer unless they had electricity?
Aaron, we can't stay. Something bad happened here, happened to Grace. What if whoever did it comes back?
We risk it. I gotta figure out what's going on here. Because if Grace really had power, and it sort of looks like she did, how is anything more important?
I like that Aaron is focused on the power issue.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's easy for us to forget that, oh yeah, the power is out and people are still trying to figure out how it happened and how to get it back on. Because we get caught up on these cool action scenes and all the Danny and I almost said Tracy, but Charlie and Miles, all that storyline. Aaron's focused on the power, so I'm glad. And that's why I want more of that. We only got, like I said, the 2 scenes with him this week. It's still a pretty big, important thing that we're only getting little nuggets of each week.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the final quote is, "They're mine."
So you murdered people's fathers and dragged away their brothers?
Yes, Charlie, I killed fathers and sons and husbands. And is that what you want to know? You happy?
Do not talk to me that way. I'm just trying to understand what's going on.
Well, now you know. Now you know why the militia cannot be stopped. Because they're mine. I trained them. And they are brutal and smart and vicious because of me. That's why your dad was right. When you see him coming, you don't fight, you run.
So there you go.
Worst quote of the week.
You think so?
That's the quote I hate.
You hate that one?
Yeah.
So you're not voting for that one?
Not that one.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll spoil that.
So
for
you've
you guys.
narrowed it down to 3 already. That's progress. Good job. All right. Well, that's the quote of the week. Once again, go over to goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution. You'll see a section there entitled polls, and click on that. and you'll see the Quote of the Week poll where you can vote on your favorite quote. And we'll play the winner next week in the podcast, just like we did for last week's episode. All right, man. That means it's time for some feedback. And boy, did we get some good feedback this week.
Looks like we got a lot of it, too.
We did. Alrighty, we're going to get it kicked off with some audio feedback that we received from Courtney.
Hey guys, this is Courtney. I just wanted to give you my feedback for this episode of Revolution. I believe it was episode 3. I have to say that this was the worst episode I've seen in a really long time of any TV show ever. It was horrible. And I attribute it all to Charlie and the flip-flop of the storylines, and that this main storyline of her and Miles going to get Danny back. In my opinion, the main storyline should be getting the electricity back on and following our Google guy and the British lady who went to see Grace and found her computer and whatnot. Charlie really needs to go away. I was on board with her for the first 2 episodes, and I'm done with her. I don't know if she's overacting. I defended her to the first 2 episodes to Daryl, and now I'm going to recant and say that I was wrong. I don't know. She's just rubbing me all the wrong way. I have 2 predictions, and they both seemed really obvious to me, so I'm sure I'm not the only one that's come up with them. Danny is going to end up joining the militia, which is going to make just another obstacle for them getting him back, and I don't know, that just seemed really obvious to me this episode. And then my other prediction is that the British girl is going to be the one that dies, since that's what they hinted at. Maybe they're not going to die, I don't know, but that's certainly the way it seems, and I think that she's going to be the one that happens to, because now she's seen her kids, she's happy. That kind of wraps up her storyline. I hope that she's not the one that dies, because I feel like we're going to end up with too much of a lopsided trio that ends up with Miles, with 2 hyper-dependent people being Charlie and Mr. Google running around with Miles. That's just a really weak personality group, in my opinion. So that would just be another reason that I think that it's not good, and I hope they don't go that direction. It's going to make the show weaker than it already is. Based on this episode, they have a lot to turn around for me to continue enjoying it. They need to focus more on the electricity coming back on and that storyline with the Google guy and having the dongle and all of that. And they need to stop focusing so much on the Charlie, Miles, Danny thing, because it's not going anywhere. It's not furthering the story. It's got nothing to do with anything, and it's stupid. That's all there is to it. It's just stupid. The only other interesting storyline to me is the Miles Monroe connection and how that is going to play out, but I'm waiting for more on that. So those are my thoughts, and thanks for listening.
All right.
That's really harsh, and I'm going to have to do a 180 from where I've been the last few comments I've made and just say, I don't think Charlie was that bad.
Okay. Okay.
As much as she did kind of rub me the wrong way, I think that, kind of like I mentioned it last week, you have to have the ignorant, the whiny, the things that make you hate them to make you go, oh, wow, they've progressed really far. I think in the future.
I guess I don't know that you have to make them annoying to see progression.
Well, you don't have to, but I think with this character, I think it's kind of important that we do see that she's not worldly,
right?
And
she's not. I mean, her dad was very overprotective of her. But I think Courtney's being a little bit harsh too. It's certainly her opinion, and
of course,
is completely valid in that context. Now she also felt like Maggie was going to die, which we agreed with. She said that Danny's going to join the militia, which we said that certainly is looking that way.
Yeah.
She also said that she would like to see Maggie and Google Guy as the primary storyline, and I would certainly like to see more of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that your primary characters are Miles and Charlie and Nora. Once they get back with Google Guy and Maggie, Aaron, we should call him by his real name. Nora is also a strong personality, so it won't just be Aaron and Charlie and Miles. Nora is in that mix as well. And Charlie is a strong personality. It's just that she's naive and green. You know what I mean? So Google Guy is... See, Courtney's got me calling him Google Guy. Aaron, I want to call him by his real name. Aaron is, he doesn't have it. He got his butt kicked on the playground, right? So he's got no fighting skills whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think... if Maggie does die, I think Grace is going to be, pardon the pun, but she's going to be Aaron's saving grace.
Oh.
I think that she's going to be that strong lead. If we lose Maggie as a strong female lead for Aaron, I think we're going to see Grace step in that role, at least until they find the rest of the group. I don't think that Aaron is necessarily going to pair up with Charlie, and Miles is going to have to pull them everywhere.
Yeah, I wonder when they're going to get grouped back together, because they are in Grant Park, Illinois.
Yeah.
We're not sure where Miles and Nora and all them are, Charlie, exactly.
Did we not get that location?
We might have. But anyway, I don't know how far apart they are, but
okay.
Anyway, they've got to find each other at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so, most of what Courtney said, I don't disagree with. I'd like to see more of the power outage storyline as well. I don't think it is I don't think it needs to be the main storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I still think, because you can restore the power, but that doesn't mean you've restored the order. If they restore the power right now, Miles, excuse me, I did it again. Monroe gets that.
Yeah.
He's got the power. The power comes back on. It's going to equip him more. So they've got to take him down really before they get the power back on.
I don't think they will. I think they'll get the power on before they take him out.
And it could happen. It could happen.
So,
yeah.
I do agree with pretty much everything she said, but I would probably tone it down several notches.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she had some very good points.
She did. All right, Courtney, thanks for sending that in. All right. I'll take this one. This comes in from Mark in Ontario, Canada. He says, "Hi, Daryl and Jeremy. I'm new to Golden Spiral Media. I stumbled across your Revolution podcast after upgrading my iPhone to iOS 6 and was checking out the new podcast app. Your podcast was the first one listed under TV and entertainment. That's awesome. I knew we had been ranking high in iTunes, and you guys, the listeners, are the reason for that. So thank you guys for making us. He said the first one. Maybe he did a search for Revolution. I don't know, but either way, thank you for that. I know we're the first if you search for Revolution podcast. But anyway, he says I've never listened to a podcast before, but after having just watched episode 2 of Revolution, I was curious and downloaded all 4 episodes. I'm instantly hooked and can't wait for your next episode. Now on to Revolution. First off, Randall looks like he's carrying a cattle prod, not a glow stick. It's kind of like a taser farmers use to move livestock around, zap them in the rump, and they move forward. Cattle prods have been used in various movies and TV shows as torture devices before. Look it up on YouTube and see how they work. And we called it a cattle prod in our Maria Howell interview.
Yeah.
But it looked different than, and I grew up in a farm town, so I'm familiar with cattle prods. It might have been like a homemade cattle prod type of thing. And also the bolt between the 2 prods stayed on, and the cattle prods I've seen just deliver a shock, and that's it. And for TV, maybe it stayed on. I don't know, but anyway, moving on. He says, second, Grace's list of names. Why isn't Ben on the list? Top of the list shows string to encrypt. Could Grace be encrypting the list of names so Randall doesn't get it? Could those names be what the person replying to Grace is asking? Did Randall find it? Maybe it's a case of Randall being part of a group that knows the secret of why the power went out and is wanting to, quote, eliminate everyone from that group so that he holds all the power, no pun intended. I like that theory. I think it's possible. And lastly, Maggie and her kids. Firstly, time travel? Are you guys serious? I sure hope the show doesn't turn into that. Here's my thoughts. When Aaron is talking to Maggie and he says, I'm paraphrasing, what if we could get the power back on? You could go home, you could see your kids. At no point is it suggested that her kids are dead. I'm sure you've noticed that Maggie talks with an Australian accent. What if Maggie is from Australia and has a family back home? Perhaps she was visiting the U.S. When the blackout occurred. Without power, how is she supposed to get back to Australia? Sailboat is the only option I could think of, but just how many people have the skills to navigate the ocean using a sextant these days? And if she could find someone, what sort of price would she have to pay to get them to take her there? You used a Mama Bear reference when talking about Rachel, but the same might be possible for Maggie. She might not be a bad guy in the show, but that wouldn't stop her from doing whatever it takes, perhaps even turning on the rest of her group for a chance to get back home to her family. By the way, I don't know if it means anything, but IMDb shows Annalise Phillips, who plays Maggie, is only appearing in 2 episodes, where the rest of the group has been in 6. I don't think that means anything because, I mean, she was in this week's episode.
Yeah.
And he says, that's it for my Revolution rant for now. I do have a question about your website. Where's the chat room for Revolution? And he's the one asking about it, the channel of the podcast, or the chat room saying the Fringe podcast. I addressed that earlier. So anyway, thanks. Keep up the good work, Mark. So I just want to say, I'm glad you found us in iTunes, Mark. Thanks for listening. Time travel, we just said that it's a JJ show, and you can't rule out time travel. I don't think it's going to... at this point, I don't see time travel heading that way. But it could be, and when she said what she did, time travel came as a possible option in the future. Yeah. So I'll stand by it. I still think it could happen given who's behind this show, but I don't think that they are going there at this point in the story. I don't see it happening.
Right. I agree. I think it was more of one of those. And maybe it's because I've watched sci-fi most of my life, so I'm so used to time travel. So,
that's right.
I'm so sorry for such a far-fetched idea, but it could happen. Yeah. So.
And his thoughts on Maggie's kids are definitely a very strong possibility. I don't know if she's British or Australian because Miles called her the British chick last episode,
right?
But whatever she is, I think it's possible that her family is alive over there. She got stranded over here. That's
a very good idea. I'd not even considered that, so I like hearing that. So.
Or Canadian with an accent is what Rev 3 is saying. Let's make her Scottish. She's definitely Scottish.
No,
probably not. No, not Scottish at all.
I did like his point about Ben and his name not appearing on the list. Mm-hmm. I think we briefly mentioned that, or at least I thought it. I was wondering why it's not on there.
Maybe because she knows he's dead.
Maybe because she knows he's dead, but who would have told her?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't either.
Maybe he didn't check in, something like that. So maybe that medallion belonged to Rachel because we did see her name on there. So,
right. That's true.
I'm not sure. Maybe he was getting stuff from our work, right? And then we hear her say that. So maybe it was her files. Who knows? So
true. All right. You going to take the next one?
I'm so sorry. Let's see. This next one is from, Kim from Las Vegas. And Kim says, wait. So when power is found briefly in the necklace at the end of the episode, how does an iPhone still have enough battery life to turn back on? Guess it's true that iPhones have long-lasting battery power. It can last 15 years. Love that you guys are doing a podcast on this show. I was wary of it after the pilot, but it's getting better. Again, this is from Kim from Las Vegas. Very interesting. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So
that's a nice little Apple logo. I'm sure they're paying for that product placement in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny that she says that the battery power lasts so long, and we know that they don't. So
right.
I'm sorry. I'm a Windows guy.
Yeah, and even once your iPhone or your iPad, whatever your device, once it runs down, you have to charge it for, I think it's somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes before it has enough power to turn back on.
Right.
But anyway, it was definitely not realistic that it would still have battery charge. Unless, like I said, the amulet, if it actually powers things, then, we don't know, but we'll see. All right, this next one, how did I get stuck reading the long one again?
I can do back to back if you like.
Oh, that's all right.
All right.
And the next one's short. Man, all right. This comes in from Jess, and Jess says, I just discovered this podcast, and I'm working my way through the first episodes. So you may have addressed my particular comment or question. In the opening credits, I think of episode 2, I can't remember if the pilot was the same or different. Have you noticed that the word evolution is present on the screen before the R flashes on? That caught my attention immediately. I have a few theories on it. First, it was a comment on our society and how technology dependent we are. If the blackout is indeed man-made, then whoever caused it probably feels like this will evolve our society. Technology dependence has in a lot of ways caused our society to regress. Now, since I have seen a few episodes, I'm wondering if there's room for an AI to be involved, or evolved as the case may be, or if that's too sci-fi and not really post-apocalyptic. I feel like they are trying to mesh the two. I wondered about it a bit after the appearance of Randall. At this point, I have not seen the third episode, since it looked like it was trying to stop Grace from conversing on the computer. At this point, I don't know who is on the other side of the computer, but it seems like both the militia and the average person have no idea about the electricity. So if this is a small sect of people who know about the power, are they just purposely keeping it off? Or is there something bigger in control here? Well, I guess obviously there's something bigger in control, but I thought it could be an interesting twist if it was actually a computer. So now that I've thrown that theory out there, I'm not sure if I like it, but I guess I will see what you guys think about it. At the very least, I'm very intrigued by this small group of people with access to power and how Ben fit in with all of it. Anyway, thanks for the great podcast, guys. Cheers. And that is from Jess. So, Jess, we did talk about the evolution and the R in our pilot episode review. That would be episode 2 of the Revolution podcast. And we had some thoughts very similar to what you had laid out there. Yeah. But their other theory there was saying that maybe an artificial intelligence or an AI might be behind the blackout. That would be a strange twist, wouldn't it?
Well, it's something that I've definitely explored myself.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we're going to find that Randall is an android. Sorry. I do think it's a possibility to have AI. One of the questions that I wonder is how's she communicating with people? Because the amulet is proximity. How does the signal travel?
Right.
So
I think that's when we're going to have to suspend our disbelief.
Yeah.
There has to be a current all the way through the wire there.
Right.
Or it's going to die after
100 feet or whatever.
Yeah, it's got to be boosted along the way and stuff. Yeah. But.
So maybe it's a wireless signal that goes to a satellite. Ooh.
It could.
So maybe there are people in space. We kind of briefly mentioned that.
Pigs in space?
Pigs.
Pigs in space.
Thank you.
Do you know what that is?
I should.
It's from The Muppet Show. A little before your time.
Yeah.
But you should still know The Muppet Show.
I do know it, but I don't know it that well.
All right. Any other comments on Jess's email there?
No. Thanks for the comments. Great theories. I'd like to hear more from her.
Okay.
The next one is going to be from Cortexitron, a.k.a. Jim. We're going to call him Jim because that's a whole lot easier.
Not if you're a Fringe fan.
He says, "Hey, Jeremy and Daryl," and I would like to thank him for putting that in the correct order. I didn't have to do that this week. Not sure if you guys noticed it, or if it's even worth mentioning, but at the end of the preview for next week's episode, the Revolution logo is shown with the planet in the background. If you look close, you'll see a small light glowing on the planet. I believe it corresponds to the place where the blackout originated from. I rewatched the pilot scene where it shows the power going out. When the lights start going out, it seems to expand outward from the eastern coast of the U.S., perhaps with New York or Boston at the center. The glowing light on the planet at the end of the preview seems to be in a similar geographical spot. I'm thinking that will end up being the location that our heroes will need to get in order to complete their journey this season. What they will need to do there is still anybody's guess, but I'm thinking the cliffhanger will deal with the need to keep the power off for some reason. Anyway, that's what I noticed. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the podcast. From the corner of Shut Up and Stay Here, Jim.
All right, before we comment on that, I'm going to go ahead and read the next one because it ties in with that. This one comes in from Stephen in Virginia. And Stephen says, "Hello, Revolutionaries. I did some slow motion on the globe during the title screen of Revolution on my DVR. and I have determined that Hawaii is the lone bright spot. Something that made this easier to determine was a YouTube video when I Googled rotating Earth at night. The YouTube video is called Rotating Earth Day and Night - Planet Observer. And he gives a link. I will include the link in the show notes. Once again, this is episode 6 of the Revolution podcast. You can find that over at goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution. Back to the email, he says, if you pause this video about 16 seconds in, you can see Florida and the Caribbean on the right side of the globe, and conveniently enough, Hawaii is in the dark part of the globe and lit up as a single dot. I'm still trying to make sense of some other things, but knowing Hawaii is the lit area has changed my perspective on what took away the power. Thanks for starting the podcast on Revolution. I have listened to the Fringe podcast ever since season 1 and submitted feedback a few times. I look forward to the same type of excellent podcasting for Revolution as Fringe. Thanks, Stephen in Virginia. And Stephen, I remember you sending all that stuff in back in season 1. Stephen was sending stuff in. His last name's King, ironically.
Really?
Yeah, we were like,
Oh.
I remember the first time we were like, ooh, I wonder if this is the Stephen King. He's not, but he is a Stephen King, and that's still cool. But anyway, when he sent this in, I was like, no, there's no way it can be Hawaii. But I watched the video, stopped it, and looked at it side by side. And I have to say, I think he's right.
All right. I'm glad somebody figured that out. We mentioned that in, was it the pilot episode, or
No,
was it our pilot
that was
episode?
That was our initial. So Cortexotron was asking if we had covered that, and we covered that in
Right.
episode 1 of the Revolution podcast. You brought that out. That
Right.
was something you noticed.
Right.
So yeah, go back to listen to episode 1 of the Revolution podcast.
Yeah.
So I would be curious. You guys, I'll like I said, I'll post a note, or you can go over to YouTube and search for Rotating Earth Day and Night - Planet Observer. Pause it and pull up the Revolution artwork. Is it Hawaii? Is it really Hawaii? Does it line up with Hawaii? Or even if it does line up with Hawaii, is that really where the answer lies? And how are they going to get there? You know?
Well, that could be the conundrum for season 7.
That's right.
How to get to Hawaii.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I think, again, I'm really glad somebody did that. Find out where that looks to be. I'm definitely going to take a look at it and see what I think about that. It's kind of neat, though. I mean, Hawaii is kind of an idea I've tossed around again as well for a certain book that I'm writing, or something similar.
Right.
So not necessarily Hawaii, but in the middle of an ocean is definitely a good place to keep the power, and you're separated. You've essentially stranded yourself, but you stranded everybody else so they can't get to you. So,
well, maybe that's what caused Oceanic Air 815 to crash. This is the prequel to Lost.
So you're saying there is going to be time travel?
That's right. There is going to be time travel.
All right.
That's funny.
So,
all right. You want to take the last email there?
I will. This one's from Crowbar. It says, hey there, friends. I want to throw something out there before we get too far along in the season. JJ has a habit of developing the bad guy, only to later show sympathy for that character. We saw it in Lost with the others and Fringe with the Red Universe. My prediction is that we will eventually be sympathetic towards Monroe and his cause. I would say it will be a case of the end justifies the means. So for now, I'm not going to think of Monroe as the enemy, but as someone using unjust methods to reach a goal for the common good. Some may say that he is anti-USA. That makes him bad. There are 15 years there. As far as we know, the USA could have become even more corrupt than it is now, and because the bad guy itself, become the bad guy itself, the rebels who still support the USA may or may not know of all the corruption that exists and think they are doing good. Looking at today's political climate, there are cases today of societal separation between political parties. And at a catastrophic event like losing power in 15 years, anything could happen. Thoughts? What are your thoughts, Darren?
Well, I think it's a very valid point. Definitely with our political system. I mean, I don't know if something like this happened, if our political parties would finally put their crap aside and unite, or if it would just be there's so much division already, they wouldn't be able to come to any type of agreement anytime soon, and it would be too late by the time that they did.
Yeah.
I kind of think the latter, actually. So, but I like it. I think it's good. It's a good insight. What about you?
I don't think that my opposing political party friends I would want to kill. You know,
I don't think so.
I don't see a reason to fight against them in a physical form. I know there are people on Washington Hill or whatever you would have it that are friends. They're on opposite sides of the party lines, but they get along. They go play expensive golf games, that sort of thing.
Right.
So
could they come together to keep the government going? I don't know.
To keep it going when you can't really communicate the laws that you legislate.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can really do a whole lot in the federal government. I think it would collapse. So
yeah.
I don't think it's their fault. I'll say that.
Okay.
Unless they started it, then it is their fault.
All right, we've got one more audio feedback here, and this one comes in from Travis.
Hey, Daryl and Jeremy. This is Travis in Florida. I've been following you guys since the first episode and following Daryl and Clint since the Fringe podcast. You guys are doing a great job, as always. Just wanted to call in for Revolution and say so far I'm liking the show. Each episode has been getting better and better. I think even by now, Fringe Season 1 had already had one little bit of a not so great but okay episode. Just wanted to give my 2 cents, though. First of all, I caught the name of the mall where the Rebel base was as Lone Pine Mall, and I tweeted about it earlier, but I thought it was worth mentioning that that's the same name of the mall at the end of Back to the Future, which began as Twin Pine Malls. Thought that was funny, worth mentioning. Don't have any real theories as to why the power's out, but I think it's pretty obvious it's man-made, and somebody knows something about it from that family. And just looking forward to going on this journey. It looks like fun. Glad to have you guys helping along with it. You guys are doing a great job, like I said, and just hope everybody keeps growing and growing with this. It seems like it's doing really good. I also wanted to send along a picture of Billy Burke. This is a picture I remember him from Mafia. I thought it was way too funny not to pass up. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I look forward to listening to you guys some more in the future episodes. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Travis. I didn't catch the Lone Pine.
I didn't either, but
reference.
I really appreciate him finding that.
I'm glad he caught that, yeah. And if you're interested in seeing the picture of Billy Burke, it's pretty funny. I'll also have that in the show notes. And once again, this is episode 6 of the Revolution podcast, and you can find the show notes for this over at goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution.
So what was Lone Pine Mall before?
It was Twin Pine Mall.
Twin Pine.
And then Marty took out one of the pines
Right.
in one of his trips.
Right.
And became Lone Pine.
Okay. I just wanted to see if they had a Twin Pine Mall as well. They don't have a Lone Pine Mall, but in Illinois, apparently, according to Google. So.
All right. I'll tell you what. That means it is time for our Twitter poll of the week. Our question this week was, what caused Miles to leave the militia? We kind of speculated on this earlier. So we got a few responses this week. The first one came in from Zero Fights, and he said the same thing you did. Bass Monroe broke up with him. They had a divorce. Right. Longclaw says he didn't agree with something Monroe did. Maybe he found out about Elizabeth Mitchell. Alternacat says Miles left when he realized his noble intentions to bring protection to the helpless were now being used to oppress and rule them. Rev Fan Podcast says, looks like Miles just wanted to create order. Maybe Monroe's power corrupted him too much. Ducky is Lost says Miles or men under his command killed a kid at some point, and that was the last straw. The quest to rescue Danny is penance. I like that theory, Ducky. Jimmy Olsen Blues says, I think he quit because he got sick of the killing innocents and just wanted to be left alone. I definitely agree that he wanted to be left alone. That's why he was hiding out in Chicago. Browncoat Tom says maybe he didn't leave. Maybe Bass kicked him out.
I don't think he would still be a general if that were the case, though.
Yeah, you're probably right. Weezery said, Weezery said it got out of hand for Miles and he could no longer hack it. I could see that.
Yeah.
And Darth TM said, despite his hard shell, he knows he went too far. He'll be like Han Solo over a season rather than 2 hours. So Han Solo softened up after a while and stuff. So yeah. So some good feedback this week.
Yes, it was.
Sounds like we're all kind of getting the same vibe overall, though.
But like you said earlier, maybe JJ's wanting us to think this, and he's going to go a different direction.
Yeah. I'm just not sure how much of the storyline is JJ and how much of it is Eric.
True.
And I think it's more Eric, but JJ's definitely involved. Mm-hmm. All right, so if you want to contribute in either of our feedback segments, the Twitter poll that we just did, or the email and voicemail section that we did prior to that, here's how you can participate in that. You can email your theories or your audio files if you want to send an MP3 or something like that, or record a voice memo on your iPhone and send it over to us. The email address for that is feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. Or you can call us and leave us a message, and the number to do that is 304-837-2278. That goes straight to voicemail, and you can just leave it, and then we'll include that in the show. If you want to follow us on Twitter and participate in the Twitter poll, our Twitter ID is GSM Podcasts. And of course, you can also hook up with us on Facebook at facebook.com/goldenspiralmedia. And our website is goldenspiralmedia.com. And you can also, like we mentioned at the top of the show, give us a rating in iTunes. We appreciate those of you who have done that. We sure appreciate it. All right. Anything else, Jeremy?
I don't have anything to add.
All right. Kind of a long show tonight. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. It certainly has been a blast talking about Revolution with you, Jeremy. I enjoy this very much. It's a good show. I wasn't sure when we got into it, how much theory and speculation we'd be able to throw out there. And that's what I enjoy podcasting is about, and we definitely have a lot of that to do. Plenty of fodder out there for us.
Cannon fodder?
We haven't seen cannons yet.
All right.
Conversation fodder.
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, until next time, I want to remind you to watch out for tripwires.
And eat your Cocoa Puffs.
The Revolution Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Warner Brothers, or NBC. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, and for educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Check out our Revolution blog, live show, and other podcast productions at goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media.